Hello and welcome back, chat. Today we're gonna yap about this underground fan game, and this video took me ages, right? Because there's 12 games that FNAG, which the creator of the series just felt like pumping out all of these games, bro. So let's just get into the video. So a few of these games are kinda lost media, which kinda sucks, but we do have his old YouTube videos, like the very first FNAG Gipsy's. So we can see in the video of the title screen with a massive watermark. Well, no biggie, we can handle it anyways. But funny thing is that FNAG took the character from a different Five Nights at Freddy's fan game called Five Nights at Worst Chicken. But if we're gonna talk about the Gipsy model for a second, well, we'll know later on that in his games that he'll be a green fox, but I kinda like the wolf design. Thank God, in the 2021 version, he went back with the wolf idea. So after I just yapped that, FNAG clicked the first night, which is just a number 1. Yeah, there's no new game. So the newspaper said that they need a new night guard looking over the Faz Wolf's warehouse. So we all know that if we have a simple observation that the game takes place in Australia, in Canberra, in 2035. So the true blue nation right here from the underground has animatronics laying around in their warehouse, right? So we get paid $523.50 a week. So looking at the office, we can see some edits of FNAF 1 and FNAF 2 doorways with a metal wall placed as the background. And on the desk we can see a Sparky plushie, which was a popular FNAF hoax at the time. So there's a button on the right, and when you click it, you gain power. And there's a panel on the left, which is for the 2 doors and an alarm. There's also another button, but since there's a watermark blocking it, I can't tell what it is. One extra detail here is it doesn't end at 6 AM, it's just an extra hour on into it. So it's 7 AM now. After the first night, you get into a minigame where you play as a yellow guy in the office. On the side you can see a blue and a purple guy fixing some animatronics. From watching the video, the minigame just looks like a giant maze where you find a dark cyan square and you can walk into another blue guy ends the minigame. So Alberto, for the millionth time, how does these animatronics attack? Well, the only ones in the video that I can explain. Everything else is just a mystery. So Toy Bonnie and Old Chica on the left, to do them you need to use the button A to block them out. But Toy Chica or Bonnie attack from the opposite side, so you just need to use door B to close them off. But Gipsy is a bit unique. He goes in the hallway, and to stop him, use the alarm from the panel. And also another unique one is Toy Freddy. He starts in the hallway and either moves from the left doorway or the right doorway. And if you don't close the door, he will get into your office and kill your power, making you lose. Off topic, FNAG made another video showing off the extras, which if we look at the buttons, we can see there's 22 animatronics, which I reckon that he didn't finish the game and dropped it out. So if you guys want to hear it, then here's the list then. Here you go. So there's Gipsy's Dismantled, Decimated, Golden Gipsy, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Mangle, Balloon Boy, JJ, Puppet, Sparky, Shadow Bonnie, Light Bonnie, Tinky Winky, and the Jack. So the lineup of the animatronics is a bit odd, like the Tinky Winky animatronic from a different FNAF fan game, and also another weird one is Jacksepticeye. They wanted Jacksepticeye so much, maybe it's just those Happy Wheels videos, that the Australian company want him to be an animatronic so badly. The only 2 videos that I can find from Five Nights at Gipsy's 2, which is the older one, that is just the trailer of the game, which you just see Bonnie just ripping his face off and saying soon, and then one of the other one is just showing off the jump scares, which is kind of odd to only show the jump scares but not the gameplay. But one thing to take note from here is that Gipsy's changed his design from a wolf to a fox. Yeah, I know there's one more game I can yap about, but there's barely anything to talk about, and it's just an endless demo. This one is one of the well-known parts of the series. So in the title screen, you can see on the right that every time it will change the animatronics, which is kinda unique and rare at the time. So let's just get into it. So FazFox Entertainment, which is a company that's running this, is reopening and renaming it to Gipsy's Diner, and they needed a new night guard to watch over the place to 12 to 7. And there's a little intermission with the clock counting up from 11:59 to 51 to midnight, which is kind of cool if you're playing this for the first time, but soon it just becomes plain annoying. And another thing to add is, it's kind of odd to add a loading screen. It's fake, and if we look at the code, we can see that it has a counter to timing up to 10, right? And it counts to 10, right? And it just puts you into a game, so it's kind of pointless. So we get to play the game right now, right? And once we do, we see a gigantic room of an office, which has some charm to this game. But on the left, there's a phone, which we can wind up the music box, and we can also look at the 2 vent cameras. And on the right, there's a locker and a camera, which the locker is straight off ripped off where Return to Freddy's 4. But you want to know what's annoying about this? If you use the phone and just not using it, it just make a beeping sound for like I reckon 30 seconds, right? Which it gets really annoying when you're using the phone constantly. Also, you have a meter on the top right called awareness, which is used for the animatronics when they're in the office. But the meter goes so slow, but I think the higher the meter, the animatronic will stay a tad bit longer. So how do the animatronics act? Well, most of the animatronics we see attack the exact same, even though they came out of the vents. But we do have some curveballs thrown at us. So let's begin. So everyone that's highlighted, which is most of them, right, uses the locker, but Titron and Valentine go to the vents. But you can block them out, right? But you also can use the locker. K-Trap is one of the easiest. If you use the phone a lot, he will have a chance of moving, and if that happens, just flip up the phone again. And the last one is Golden Gipsy. So he's basically like FNAF 3's Phantom Balloon Boy, but if you stare at him for too long, you will lose the power, and soon he will just take 6 billion years to jump scare you. So the phone guy is just text-to-speech, but he does help us with the game and tells us a bit of lore, and just how the animatronics are hostile at night and just want to kill at night time. There's some Easter eggs, like if you type candy, you will get jump scared by candy. There's a few of them like that, so let me just get them out of the way. So for Lockjaw, you just type LJ, and if you type Poo, you type PO, and for Springtrap, just type ST. And another Easter egg is Darkoba, and he's the unluckiest thing ever. However you ask, he would just do is he appears and jump scares you and soon crashes the game, and also wipes your save file. And there's a secret extras where everything's glitchy and you see photos of negative picture animatronics, and the extra music is being reversed as well. Also in the extras, there are 2 minigames, where the first one is where a father and a daughter are talking about their animatronics, and soon the purple guy named Fritz telling them to leave the place. And the other one is just a person getting killed by a shadow person, wink wink, and soon the minigame ends with the animatronic, the creator, jump scaring you. There are some endings for this game, so like the first ending is that you beat night 5 and you get your paycheck. And some more info about the lore. It says there's a local diner, Fredbear's Family Diner, had a kid getting his head bitten by Fredbear. Sounds familiar? But on a paycheck, we can see that we're playing as James Smith, and we're working on the 2nd of December 1987. After beating night 6, we get more news about the bite of 87, but we beat night 7 and we just got fired. but who cares, we want us to look at some bad endings. So the bad ending is triggered by beating Night 7's max mode, and I'll show you how it goes.
Don't worry about who I am. More important question, who are you?
Yeah, we get dragged into a spring-locked suit into a place in the future where we see a red animatronic, which is ironically called Red Bear. We will see them later on in the video. Plus there's some rare screens that show the text "It doesn't end", with the animatronics having no eyes, and the other one is with the old animatronics with a ghost behind them begging them to set free. Even though the animatronics are just recolors from original characters from Scott Cawthon, FNAG did try his best at making a somewhat decent FNAF game. Plus, I never experienced a single bug, which is something if you compare to a 26 FNAF game, it's actually really good. So this is weird, because FNAG released Five Nights at Gipsy's for the beginning, but he also wanted to restart and make a new series, which is now the Remastered series. So the first game of the Remastered series, Five Nights at Gipsy's Remastered, A New Beginning, had a big drop of quality. Yeah, the last game was pretty low quality, but in this game everything just looked really bad. Just look at some of these animatronics designs, like what? So the story is that we are Michael Apton and we are assigned to work at FNAG Storage, and we worked there for 5 nights, but after the 5th night, a few animatronics followed us home, which we will talk about the home thing soon. But the purple guy kinda helps us-ish, he kinda does nothing, but basically the fun guy is just trying to help us, that's what I'm thinking. But in the 3rd night he doesn't talk, but after that, the 4th night, he talks about how his son was in the hospital and how he had nightmares, which is kind of odd. Before talking about the animatronics and how they work, we're going to explain the mechanics first. On the left, you'll see a panel, and on the panel we can see a door power and a mute call button. And also on top of the screen, we can see there's a toxic meter. First, how does the toxic meter work? Well, if you press Control, you can seal the ventilation to block things from coming in, as well as the longer that you close the ventilation, the toxic meter will go up. And when it's at max, you will die. Well, something you see on the left door, just don't fret. Just press the shift button and it will just use the signal jammer. Okay, on the right side, you will see there's 2 buttons. One is to light up the window and the other is to shock it. But also another thing is there anyone on the right side of the door, just go to the panel and close the door. At the start of the game, you'll get like 2 cameras, right? And one of them is for the music box, right? And you gotta wind up the music box. And the other camera has a red circle, which you can charge the power door. Yeah, the door has power. Now we yap about the animatronics. So Circus Baby, Lance, Funtime Foxy, Ennard attack from the window. So you should make sure you watch it in the window and use the control shock if it's there. If not, they will smash through the window, ending your game. And especially look out for Lance, he's really quiet. Gipsy, Foxy, Funtime Freddy, Chica, Spring Body attack from the right door. So close the door, but for Abominatronic, yeah, my king, he will have a camera for himself, which you will get later on throughout the game. So what you do with him? Well, he slowly walks out the room, and once he's out, he will have a running sound effect signaling that he's coming out. So how do you stop him? Well, you just close the door. Dismantle is kind of a funny one. You just gotta stall him and that's it. But how do you stall him? Just watch him, actually. That's really simple, right? Endo, Yendo, Bonaire will go in the vents. So if you hear vent noises, just close the door. Well, no, seal the vents. Sorry, man. So what do we do when someone's from the left side? Well, Fredbear, Freddy, Biddy Bab, and Bonnie are always going to the left side of the door, where you just use the signal jammer to wash them away. And finally, Ballora. She needs her music box wind, which is obvious, right? So after beating the knights, we get a cutscenes, right? So the first night, we are in a red suit in an old building, and we see Golden Gipsy walking away. The second one is exactly the same, but at the end, it says we must stop him. But on the third one, it's where we are in a different perspective, and we see Golden Gipsy grab an orange orb from someone, and the ending with the text "help us." In the fourth cutscene, right, we're in the red suit once again, and we see Golden Gipsy taking the orange orb and running away again, and with the text going again with "he mustn't win." Now with the fifth cutscene, it's like the last few ones, but he just took a cyan orb. After that, the minigame ends with the text going with "you're next." Now with the sixth one is interesting. Now the red animatronic is alive, moving around, and the creator is active, trying to stop the Golden Gipsy animatronic. But Golden Gipsy overpowers them, and then the minigame ends with the text "I'll help him." And finally we get the last cutscene, with the red animatronic defeating Golden Gipsy. What I think happens next is the orbs are the souls, and the souls are trapped in the creator, and Golden Gipsy is taking the orbs somewhere properly to other animatronics. Well, it's just a theory. So night 6 is a special night, so a few animatronics followed you home, and now you're trapped with them. But quickly, I'm just going to tell you how to deal with them. So Shadow Bonnie, Light Bonnie, and Fusion, to get rid of them, you just turn off your flashlight, and Golden Gipsy is on your TV, so just turn them off with your remote. There's another night called Nightmare, where you're the kid from the core that had nightmares and is in the hospital. So throughout the night, you're against Golden Gipsy, Shadow Bonnie, and Light Bonnie. So to deal with them is pretty simple. Don't flash Shadow Bonnie and Light Bonnie, and for Golden Gipsy, just use the plushie to just scare him away. Just off topic, after the 7th cutscene, you get a sneak peek of what happens next. So Five Nights at Gipsy's Remastered: A New Beginning isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but at least it has some storytelling, unlike the last game, but it's still just a heap of garbage. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. Why is this game so difficult? I'm not even joking. 10 seconds in and I died to Cobra. What the heck? And they kinda added a bit too much for the first night, but after you get used to that, it's kinda chill. And I don't like how the game's controlled. Like, there's no buttons, you have to use the keyboard, which is probably cool for the time, but it's kinda lacking. But the game's graphics did improve, even if it's just the lighting. The game is easy on the eyes, and I do love the charm the game has, and I just can't put my finger on what it is. Every time you hop into a night, you just gotta listen to this text-to-speech teaching you how to play the game. But the big problem is after that, they just drop you into the game. And we know that night 1 is a big spike of difficulty, right? Which makes new players who weren't prepared for this struggle heavily.
This restaurant to access.
So the mechanics of this game is a lot complex than the last. So you got a mask, a music box, a shock button, power recharge, and even you have to hold your breath for some things. But the main problem is there are 20 animatronics, but most of them act the exact same. I'm not even joking. Quality over quantity, am I right? Now with some animatronics, let's split them up into categories right here. So the first one is they attack from the left door. So that's Gipsy, Toy Faz Fox, Old Faz Fox, Bonnie, Fredbear, Circus Baby, Mini Arena, Bonnet, Yo. And all of these characters always go to the left door. And what you gotta do is, if you see them, just put on your mask, chat. The other one is they're on the right side of the door. So that would be Lance, Freddy, Chica, Spring Bonnie, Ballora, Funtime Freddy, Enid, and Bitty Bab, chat. They'll always go to the right door, so same thing you do with the left door. The creator is just the puppet of the game, so just keep his music well rounded. Electro Bitty Bab is simple. If you see him, just use the shock thingy me jig. And then lastly is Purple Freddy. He will attack from any of the doors or vents, and what to do with them is pretty simple. So just use that one unique thing, which is just hold your breath, and that's it. What I mean holding your breath is you put on your mask and hold your breath. So after we complete the first night, we get to play a minigame, and we play as Purple Freddy, and we just gotta do is collect the parts while dodging this puppet ripoff called The Lost Souls. After you do that, the minigame ends. The second one's like the first one, but you just gotta dodge Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. But we also play as Purple Freddy again, or Shadow Freddy, and we just gotta collect 3 parts. After that, the minigame ends. Third one, we also play as Purple Freddy, but we attack Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy while dodging Golden Freddy. And the last minigame is exactly like the last one, but instead of the FNAF game, it's just a fun time animatronics. But beating night 5, you get a cutscene of animatronics getting scooped out. Well, I'm not going to explain it to all, I'm just going to show it all to you. Also, here's a tip to get into a secret minigame by just going to the phone call part and type these numbers in 1988, which puts you in a minigame where you play as this shadow character named Shadow Calvin, which you will see him a lot. And there's 2 ways to beat this minigame. Once you collect all the blueprints and place all the bombs, which is crazy, and the other one is just placing the bombs. So for the lore, that Shadow Calvin takes all the blueprints and for himself, and he placing bombs just to blow it up, and takes some animatronics with him. After you beat the minigame, you will see some endings, like if you place all the bombs and with no blueprints, you'll get the normal ending, and if you get all the blueprints, you get the true ending, which both of the endings are hinting to the third and the final for the remastered series. This game feels like it has some weird hidden lore, and when people talk about this game, they go around complaining that the lore is crazy and all over the place, which is kinda crazy. But I'll go through anything about the lore sooner, but I don't know if it's all good. Oh yeah, and when I was looking through the game files, you will see 2 minigames which add some more to the lore. The 2 minigames is how Shadow Body and Light Bonnie were created. The minigame starts with the creator telling the creations to watch over his brother, which if you see in the last game, you will know it's Golden Gipsy. Even though that Five Nights at Gipsy's 2 Remastered did have some qualities, we also got to remember that it didn't work out, and most of the things it tried to do just didn't felt right. Even if it tried to add a lot of characters to the game, it just became flat and boring throughout the game. Just a little odd thing to say before we're going to talk about it. We're just going to talk about its first demo for Five Nights at Gipsy's 2. So if you press new game, it will be a custom night mode for Five Nights at Gipsy's Remastered, which is kind of odd, right? So Finish Hand was thinking about the cliffhanger on Five Nights at Gipsy's The Beginning, right? And so he left the Remastered series on hold to make a whole sequel to the Reborn series. So the game starts off with the Springtrap cutscene from Sister Location, And before it ends, you will see another animatronic saying, "I will help you, Michael." Okay, there's another game with the exact issue. Why do half of these games have a lot of these animatronics, but they only have 3 different ways to attack you? Which is kinda lazy on Finish Ham's hand. But I don't know why, if you want to add 20 animatronics and make 7 of them do the exact same. Now, let's not complain, because we have to explain some of the mechanics. So you got a cup of coffee plus a phone to see how much coffee you have for some reason, and a signal jammer and some cameras to seal some vents. So we need to know our basics. With the signal jammer, Gipsy, Cobra, the Curator, Nova, and half Golden Gipsy, which is a mouthful. Try to say that 5 times really quick, so that's your challenge. Signal jammer with the animatronics following are Vision, Coldol, Salvage Hybrid, Rose, Valentine, and if you see these animatronics in your office, just turn off your lights. So the characters that attack in the vents are Balloon Boy, Titron, Shadow Jade. If you see them in there, just close the vents. Now let's talk about some unique animatronics, starting with the simplest one, Swift. Just don't move. K-Trap is like Phantom Balloon Boy. Also Darkness is like K-Trap as well, with the FNAF 3 Balloon Boy. Also another unique one is Dylan. Dylan has a different approach. He's friendly and he will support you by giving you more coffee or power. In the extras you can see some animatronics, but something interesting is you can see it withered or fixed. But there's a random chance you can see a thing on the top right. Clicking on it will take you to the prototype extras, which you'll just see some weird designs like Blue Fire Vision or Taken Cobra. So when you beat the knights, you will continue with some cutscenes. Like the first one is that Cobra's getting jumped by these shadow guys, and the second one is Golden Gipsy's attacking Swift, Vision or K-Trap. The third one is Vision shows Gipsy what Golden Gipsy did to K-Trap, and the shadow guys just killed everyone. Same thing for the fourth cutscene, and they were just going for the older ones, so like the Creator and Titron. But beating the fifth knight will show a person named Vinny, who was the person that gave us info to survive the night, which he died. Night 6 shows the old animatronics, but in a dark different room, and it just is a teaser for the third game. There's another secret hidden minigame where it shows how Shadow came to exist. So it just shows a person getting spring locked and slowly turning black. Soon became a shadow. Tough. Final Fantasy Gipsy's 2 The Return has a lot of issues, like having a lot of quantity over quality. There's just too much animatronics, and if you want to know, this is how much animatronics are in the office, and 1/3 of them act the same. So I hope that Finish Hand fixes that issue soon. This is the last game in the remaster series, and did it end with a blast or with a stinky doo-doo? Well, this game is kind of a copy of FNAF 4, even having a fun time plush trap minigame, but it does add some to the makes, like you can sleep or blink. So the animatronics are very similar to FNAF 4, like Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica are like the Nightmare counterparts, such as Freddy and Mangle, but there's a few things Ham added to the game, like JJ. Once you see her there, you just gotta blink. While also looking through the code, I noticed there's a Poppet, but I didn't encounter him at all. Here's an Easter egg. If you go to the extras and put your cursor on the top right, it will tell you a code. Once you type that into the main menu, you will see a few things change, like you will see a thing called FDG, and once you press the load FGT, it will just take you to the menu. Here's another one. A 1 out of 10 chance you will see FDG showing off some numbers, which I don't know what it means. Night 5 is a special night, putting us in an office instead of a bedroom. You will see a Shadow Calvin, which you need to do is shut the door on him, but the power is super bad, so don't let it run out. But once you beat the night, you get a cutscene, seeing that it's getting destroyed by a spring trap and that red thing. Here's also a little fun fact. Michael Afton is Springtrap suit. So the red lock guy came in and made Shadow Calvin disappear. And that brings us to the ending screen, which just brings out a close to the Remastered series. If I had to bring up the fact that the Remastered series was kind of rough at the start, but soon it became kind of decent, which it isn't the best but not the worst, but it made some interesting lore like how Shadow Calvin blew up a whole building. Just hold your horses, this isn't the game you were thinking about, we're talking about the original version. So what's so good about this version? Well, it's kind of weird, like the first phone call is kind of weird, just listen it.
This is mainly so that our electricity bill doesn't skyrocket during the night if somebody forgot to turn off something somewhere, you know. Now,
your office is also the information area, which you can tell because of the window counter in front of you. There should be a button underneath the desk too. This is for the security door in front of your window. To your left and right are also two doors. These doors are a little stupid. You see, they require power to be closed. I think it was something like some computer or something always checking if they're closed or not. Or maybe it was a security feature.
So in this game, we play as Sky Johnson in the year 2042, which is 36 years after Five Nights at Gipsy's 2, and the company called Animatronic Fry hired someone throughout the night, and it would be smart to put the animatronics with dead bodies inside and call it a business. So the gameplay is FNAF 3 with tiny bits of FNAF 1 and 2. Explain? Well, you got a door that chews through power, but you get errors as well, or just low juice. Well, if that's the issue, how about you just use the maintenance panel on your right? Well, you got a music box, which is kinda in a lot of these games, which does suck. So let's get in the animatronics. Red Bear is kinda simple for me. You just use the audio lure, and just make sure he's knocked out. Hannah Smith is like Foxy, so you close the door if you hear running. Cyan Trap, it always goes to the vents. Just make sure you look at the vents. If you see him, just seal the vent. James Smith will go through the hallway, just simply close the door. And Vinnie Anderson is exactly the same as James Smith. Gipsy and Wario are basically the Phantoms, so don't look at them. The funny thing is, I never struggled with them at all. Double XTB acts like Golden Sonic from Five Nights at Sonic's 3, but with a twist. See him in the maintenance panel? Close it. Simple. Dylan is exactly like from the last game. He will give you some resources or fixing some errors. Also, if you guys wondering, Poe and Popgo's guy, I never seen them and they're probably Easter eggs. Well, Five Nights at Gipsy's 3 Remastered also had a final night, so I feel like it's fair to have a final night here. Well, it had a similar layout, but it just has a lot of green mold. But something unique here is, there's shadow locks here. Wait, who are the shadow locks? Well, they're probably just like those from the minigames. Like, from like the last game, which one of the character went into their Jack's spring lock suit and died. And then it just turned black and shadowy. Woo! And probably the other shadow locks died similarly. Well, how do you deal with these? Well, they're different colored hats. Well, simple, but it's kind of stupid. Shadow Normal will attack from either from the left or right side. Simply just close the door if you see him there. Shadow Orange is like the Foxy, so just close the door. But wait, how can you tell? Well, you just use your ears with the headphones. You can tell if it's from the left or right side. Shadow Red is the Golden Freddy, so just do what you do with Golden Freddy. Shadow Blue is like Phantom BB. Just so simple, right? Plus there's a music box, so keep that well rounded. After you beat it, you get an ending with the place that you work for 5 nights is on fire. Sounds like FNAF 3, right? Yep. So like, you know what's something cool? There's multiple endings, right? Like FNAF 3. So to get the secret ending, you have to do is click things, and just to get into the minigames. You think there's more to that? Well, no. You basically just go and click stuff. Like, let's go ahead and list what we have to do. So night 1, we have to go to camera 8 and click on the Shadow Gipsy character. Night 2, we have to click on the creator's poster on camera 6. Night 3, we have to click on the stuff on the desk, plus for White Rabbit and Salvage that are behind the window. Then go and click for 2 other animatronics that are Ballora and the XXTB statue. Night 4 is when you go to camera 8 again and you click all those weird animatronics. Night 5 is simple. On the desk or on the floor, you will see 2 shadow minifigures. Just click on them. So doing those tasks each will trigger a minigame where you just play as one of those ring lock animatronics and you just press W to make them walk up to this glowing golden foxy called Alpha. Yeah, this is just getting silly a bit. After you do that for all 5 minigames, you will show an ending saying that all the animatronics will stop and change their ways. But after that, there will be an ending screen saying that the Gipsy series is finished. Then it brings up to the FDG with the text, "We see you soon," showing 2 old animatronics. What the creator of Finish Him is telling us that the remastered series and the reborn series is coming back with the 4th games, but soon they will all canned, which is kinda sad that Finish Him put these games in an awkward state. But soon, in 2017, he starts to remake the Reborn series. So I'm just gonna yap about the change or the extra content in these games, so don't even worry about me going for the same facts-ish. I don't know. So Five Nights at Gipsy's 2017 edition is pretty similar to the original counterpart, even having the same models, but there are some changes, like the newspaper mentioning an incident from the old location and saying that Gipsy was a prototype model. Well, what's the gameplay? Well, it's kinda similar, but Finish Him really hates buttons, so you gotta use your keyboard for the cameras and the mask. Wait, a mask? Well, Finish Him made it so it's now a mask. So goodbye TRTF4 locker. Well, there's something new to add to the animatronic crowd. Well, meet Fazfox, and he's really simple, but he does change things up, so if you see him move in the basement camera, just use the shock button to put him back. When you boot up the game, there's a chance you can see a rare screen showing you a code 1972, and if you type that in the extras, it will show you the 4th game showing everyone, where you can see the nightmare fashion in style. Well, this remake isn't special, but it does have a spoopy mode, which is so MLG! Five Nights at Gipsy's 2 remake, which is made around 2019, and Finish Him made a game look pretty from the last bunch of games, with better models, which we all know is used by someone else, but even that is easy on my eyes, which is pretty. Well, if we're talking about the gameplay, it's exactly like the old version, but they do have some minor changes, like there's no coffee, as for falling asleep, but Dylan isn't here no more, since Finish Him probably thinks that Dylan wouldn't add much to the game, but he is used somewhere else. Salvage got a new redesign, which is kinda weak, but that's the only input I can add. The cutscenes are changed into minigames, as well for a special 5 nights. We're in a house, looks familiar? Well, 313 attacks from the right door, so if you see a red dot at the right door, just click the right door to seal the button. 344 attacks from the other side, so do the same thing but on the other side. 345 can be found on the cameras. If you see it's getting close, just use the reset button. And finally 350 is just Phantom Balloon Boy, so don't look at him. Even though this is a remake, it does have small improvement from the original counterpart, but this game does have some problems, like how all the cast act similar, which is pretty known to have it. Now Five Nights at Gipsy's free. Now it has a massive overhaul. So most of the weird stuff is shifted away, and now it goes for its own thing. So see ya Abominatronic, we know you're the best! Well, I'll also add some new bits, like a different fan game series called Five Nights at Bradley, which is also connected to the Gipsy's convoluted lore. So the game starts with Shadow Guy turns around and jump scares you. I'm just gonna yap about how the animatronics attack and how to deal with them. So, Red Bear acts the exact same, so just use the audio device. Cyan Trap is a bit of the same thing, just block him off with the vents. Hannah Smith is also the same thing, so if she's gone, just close the door. But also extra tip here, you can stall her as well. James Smith is exactly the same. If you see him, close the door. But someone did got a change, which is Vinny Anderson. He goes to camera 11 and you can see there's 2 hallways. He will try and get through any of one of those hallways. So if you see him going to one of those hallways, just close the door to block him off. There's a music box, so make sure you wind that up. And now with the phantoms, like Gipsy, which acts like Phantom Freddy. And if you see Cobra, Vision, Coldo, Swifty, Rusty, Donnie, Richard, and Fang, if you hear those names, just flip down the cameras or change the camera. But for Bradley, he will camp out the panel, so be careful. And if you see 3.il, make sure you put down the panel. And if you're wondering about the shadow lock guys, they got no change, so you're all chill. But the whole office and the building got rid of its messy green, so now it's exactly like Remastered 3's Final Night. And for the things to do some special minigames, they're now different, so you don't need to do them, but they are in the Terrorize Night, so all the steps are here for the good ending. So step 1, click Red Bear's green hat. Step 2, you have to do is click those blue screens in this order, and to do this, you just gotta click on the order 71364225. Step 3, go to camera 2 and click all the arcade screens right to left. Step 4, click Sign Traps plushie. Step 5, you just need to type 231. Step 6, after you do that, you click on the shadow plushie, then boom. Soon you'll get into a cutscene and I'll just play it out. Wait, I just got a few questions. So, Alpha's replaced with these light things and Shadow Freddy, and now with the Light Foxy, or Light Calvin, said that he used to be a Shadow thingy, which kind of reminds me of the third game in the Remastered series. and they said that they died twice, which is kind of weird. And somehow they want the guy we're playing, Sky Johnson, to go on the ship because the Shadowlock guys are planning for something mischievous. And after that, it brings you to a newspaper saying that the place got burned down again, like the original, and it brings out to the credits. Quick thing, there's a chance of seeing Camera 0. It has a 1 out of 100 chance to see it, and you will see a yellow bear with wires going crazy out of it. I think it's just a teaser for Five Nights at Gipsy's 4. Plus, if you beat the max mode, you'll get a cutscene of a fun time green foxy jump scaring you. Well, this is probably the best out of the rest of the series, so it's a sad thing that there's no 4th game, or Finish Ham didn't remake the remastered series, but I'd love to see a bomb animatronic in high quality. Well, Finish Ham came back in 2019, probably later on, and released Five Nights at Gipsy's A New Beginning. Wait, isn't there a game called that? Well, yes, but we're just gonna call it Five Nights at Gipsy's Alpha. Well, if you boot up the game for the first time, you'll see text blobbling around saying, "Where is she?" and ending with FDG showing up. Also, another Easter egg is if you type FDG, you will see her. So the gameplay is different for once. Well, it's not like the rest of the games at this point. So let's get explaining. So Gipsy goes behind you, so if you see him right there, use the alarm, but don't keep it on for too long because it also attracts Cobra. And he comes in the office, just don't move. But I never dealt with him at all. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie simply use the shock button. Ennard goes in the vents, so either find him from two of the vent cameras. Dismantled is that you have to look at either the left or right hallway and flash it. Foxy is dealt with the same way like in FNAF 2, so make sure you flash him. And Shadow Calvin is like the golden Freddy of this game. And if you beat Night 6, you get a cutscene with the FDG teaming up with Shadow Calvin. And if you beat the max mode in the custom nights, you will get a cutscene of a box. But who's in it? Well, it's a rip-off puppet, which is Prince. After you beat the night, you will see the new night's threats, which is kind of coolish. But something else to yap about is that if you go into the custom night and you put all the AIs to 6, it will just show you something cool. Try it for yourself, I'm not going to show it. Well, this game is unique, but it does have the Gipsy's trope with having a lot of characters acting the same with little variations to deal with. But soon after, Finish Ham worked on the sequel, Five Nights at Gipsy's 2 Welcome Back. Well, now it's getting serious here. I think the Alpha series is just a reboot for the remastered series. But Alpha 2 doesn't have much going on, since it was cancelled, but you can see the office is the same as the Springlock's final night, as well as for having new animatronics to replace the old ones, which, if you look, they're kind of buns. Well, Finish Ham wasn't happy for having recolors of animatronics, so he had a change, and he said this is going to be his last game. So only a few characters came along, but with massive changes like Gipsy, Cobra, K-Trap, Swift and the creator, but they all have new designs or even names. Well, let's look at Five Nights at Gipsy's 1.0 descriptions, since every other game didn't have one. So welcome everyone to the grand opening of Gipsy's Diner, the second establishment in the Wolfen Entertainment. Meet the animatronics on display. Enjoy your meals as animatronics sing and dance, and a new animatronic for kids to interact with. This game is very visually polished, but in the gameplay wise, it's just FNAF 2 with extra steps. We got a mask, a music box, but we do have a vent to close. So what do we do to survive? Well, Gipsy, Russell, Maverick, and Golden Gipsy is simple. Just use the mask when they're in there. Well, with a few curveballs like Serena. If you see her, just flash her to get rid of her. And Russell Jr. goes in the vents, so if you see him there, just close the vents. But extra info on him, he can be can-stalled. After you beat Night 5, you'll see that we play as James Smith. Yeah, the night guard from before. And if you beat Night 6, we can see this weird animatronic named Diamond. See the resemblance from? And if you beat all the custom night modes, you get a cutscene which is tough. But what do you get from it? A star. Well, Finish Ham was going to make a Five Nights at Gipsy's 2.0, even though he said he wouldn't make it, but it got scrapped. but it's not the last game. FNAG was also working on a new game. Well, this is the only gameplay from Project Diamond. Yeah, it's the name, but it only has an open beta, and it's still in the works. But if you look at the game, or the open beta page, you can see that FNAG has planned for multiple games. But only looking at it now, there's a lot of lists that games can be scrapped and changed, but there's not that much news on for the game. There's only one weird timeline to this, and I only can think of a few things for it. Well, this is just me putting loose pieces together, so this might be the correct or completely wrong. So around 1964, Shepard's diner was open with 3 animatronics like Shepard, Prince, Jack, and then soon 2 animatronics came to the fridge, Edge and Jade. In 1968 came and brought along with new animatronics such as the Curator, Rose, Valentine, Titron, Fazfox, Nova, and Calvin, while retiring the old ones. 1972 came around and then Fazfox Entertainment was planning to make a new set of animatronics with a new endoskeleton design. They made a new prototype called Gipsy, but they were built in the storage area, which is where FNAG Gipsy's Alpha takes place. The year is 1980, and the night guards are getting stuff into the old Springlock suits, which makes them into shadow characters. Well, who's doing that? Well, I think it's this Ghost. Well, who is that Ghost? I don't know, you can take a guess. But that's how Shadow, Edge, and Jade became those shadow things. And those shadows killing people and stuffing them into suits. But something big happens. So there's a gas leak and the other newer night guard lit the gas and just explode the whole building, and then that night guard possesses Calvin. Plus, if you're wondering about Shepard and Prince, they got affected by the blast, turning them into impairments, or they just turned into ghosts. So that's how Phantom Original and Phantom Prince came along. FNAG Gipsy's Alpha happens, but don't look at the date. I don't know, it's kind of weird how the things happen because Gipsy and Kobo aren't fully built, and also Freddy and the gang are there for some reason. But someone's controlling those broken down animatronics. Who did it? Well, it's this blue thing called FDG, and she went back in time. Oh yeah, she can time travel. Just look at this Discord post. But she also has a purpose. She's trying to find her sister, Zero, which is from FNAG Bradley. But how does Shadow Calvin happen? Well, the suit, which is now Golden Gipsy, lost his control, and then the spirit just left the suit. So that's how Shadow Calvin came. Somewhere between 1980 to 1987, Fazfox made another place for Red Bear and all those other animatronics that's present in. 1987 comes back with a new image, new place, and some new sets of animatronics. And then the events of FNAG Gipsy's happens. So we all know that Golden Gipsy put James in a suit from Red Bear's diner. In 2004, everyone was fixed except for Golden Gipsy. But the only thing that happens here is that Golden Gipsy and those shadow characters attack every animatronic and damage them. But fast forward to 2008, FNAG Gipsy's 2 happens, and Hannah Smith got dared by Vinnie Anderson to stay in the abandoned building that holds animatronics. After the 5th night, Vinnie got jumped and stuffed into one of those Red Bear animatronics. And soon after that, next night, Hannah got also jumped and got stuffed in one of those suits. Also, FDG has a secret base under the building and made a virus that makes animatronics changes to make them look like this. Sometime after FNAG Gipsy's 2, FNAG Gipsy's 3 remastered happens, and we play as Lauren. And I'm just gonna take a massive guess, and the events might be that Shadow Calvin has something to do with Lauren, and to send animatronics after her, and make amalgamation parts where Shadow Calvin takes control. But in night 5, Lauren got taken to a fixed old diner where it used to be exploded somehow. I don't know, but something attacked Shadow Calvin and made him disappear. But somewhere in FNAG Gipsy's 2 Alpha happens, but I don't know what happens, so we're skipping it. And then FNAG Gipsy's 3 happens in 2046. I don't know if it's the right year, I'm just guessing right now. A guy running the horror place found Red Bear's characters and then brought them into a new building. But since they brought the shadow characters along, they started having a ruckus. That's where Sky Johnson comes in and got hired to work at the night shift. But on night 5, shadow guys kidnap Sky Johnson and put them in the moldy Fazfox old diner area, which soon Lumious Calvin, which somehow turned into that, taken to a different place where they see this guy, and then they told Sky Johnson to help to stop the bad guy, which we probably assume that guy's there. But after that, the horror attraction was burnt down, and that's the only lore that I can tell, since it kind of stops after here. And if there's someone else that has a better theory, just yap it in the comments. Bye!